Away from the start of the third and final race. Let's take a look at how they'll line up, and we know one thing's for sure: the same man will start from pole position. It is Kmart Racing's Greg Murphy alongside HRT's Mark Scaife. Ambrose and Bright will share the next row. Watch for Bright, he's all fired up to achieve in this one. Longhurst, an outstanding run today. Steve Johnson, Garth Tander and Paul Radisich.
Have a look down the right-hand side of the Shell Helix starting grid. You see those yellow boxes. The first one on the left side is where they qualified, and the second one is the result of race 2, where they started race 2, I should say. So that gives you an indication of how they've been performing throughout the day. And as you can see, Stephen Ellery did a tremendous job starting 19th and up to 9th for the start of race 3.
Race 2 didn't go quite to plan for Todd Kelly, did it? Dropping to 18th position. He has his work cut out there. Likewise, Jason Richards, who dropped all the way back to 23rd. And the final few competitors, and you won't see Paul Morris starting in this one. David Bernard, they have fixed the Caltex Haviland Ford, that's for sure.
Russell Ingall having a terrible day. Another gearbox jam. Starting 5th, he goes right to the back of the field. Has not been a good day for Russell Ingall, losing his crack at the Shell Championship Series.
Word from the ground, Marcus Ambrose believes he's suffering from some sort of a brake problem. You can see him going through just a brake routine there, the front end diving.
He's just trying to cycle some heat into the brakes and then allowing for the heat to soak out through to the tyre. But he was having a fiddle with the brake bias on the dashboard there as well, which controls the percentage front to rear. So maybe somebody's altered his brake bias between races or something like that.
Marcus
nice little trick, wasn't it? In actual fact, when he went out in practice the other day, they put in, before the shootout, in the warm-up, he went out and they put some new discs on it with different pads, and he just couldn't get those to bite properly. So I don't know, maybe they whacked those back on again. I'm having the same trouble.
He was saying in the second race they lost out a little bit, Neil, in straight line speed, but he feels they can get them in chassis setup. Grant?
Yeah, he was complaining of a long pedal on the warm-up. He thinks it may come back after a few laps, but if they do another pit stop like a 9.5 second they did this time, they're in with a chance in this race.
Yeah, pit speeds are really coming down when this series first kicked off with compulsory pit stops in every round. We were seeing stops in the 13 or 14 second bracket. Now they're getting under 10 consistently.
Sometimes if they've put new discs on the car and there's a little bit of run out of them, then you get a little bit of knock-off, so the pad settles back into the caliper.
Yeah.
And that's the description that Grant gave us then of a long pedal. That's what he's talking about. And sometimes the pads and the rotors all made up and they'll true up with some heat back in them, and that may be the issue. There's 101 different reasons.
So it's all there for Marcus Ambrose to grab, the Devil Racer. Will we see a Ford victory, or will it be a Holden whitewash? It's certainly looking in the favour of Holden, and certainly Greg Murphy. There is Jason Bright, all fired up from 20th to 4th. He had a stunning second race, and he lines up alongside the Pertec Racer.
Be interesting to see when Scaife comes in this race.
Revs rise, get ready for it. The third and final one at Pukekohe, 36 laps the distance. Compulsory pit stop, fairly even start. Murph wins out again, and look at them bunch up. Johnson squeezes his way through. Bogging it down was Ambrose. Now he's fighting for survival. Bright rounds him up, and the two Shell cars are there. Contact between Ambrose and Johnson.
Yeah, Ambrose got ambushed by the Shell team. They really got off the line quicker. He is having trouble starting that Pertec 40, admits that, and that makes him vulnerable in that run into the first turn.
Could be interesting to see Ambrose on the brakes now. Let's have a look, see if he gets them settled down.
First run down the back straight, flat out in sixth gear, 270 kilometres an hour as they plunge down into Holden hairpin. Hard on the brakes, back through the gears. See a defensive line there for Paul Radisich, making sure Marcus Ambrose doesn't even have a sniffle on the inside. Ambrose, though, gets a better
run out of it.
Out of the hairpin, they're going to go side by side, and Ambrose sweeps across to take that position back from the Rat.
Great driving coming out of the Holden hairpin, and it was Radisich who got the jump, not Stevie Johnson, and they're already going hard at it. Murphy has a slight advantage after the opening lap. Here comes Bright back in third. Scaife maintains second. It's a half a second lead after the first lap.
Have a look on board, Shell Helix Ford. And this is how they jumped on Ambrose. He didn't get away from the line very cleanly. And a little bit of contact there. You can see the mirror just get clipped on Radisich's car. It was enough to muscle his way through, but the Pertec Ford got it back about half a lap later. Lap 2 of 36, down the back straight once again. It's Greg Murphy doing what he's done all weekend, a demolition job here. Mark Scaife in second, Jason Bright in third. Then it's Ambrose, Radisich, Stephen Johnson, Tony Longhurst. A brilliant job at the Rod Nash Commodore, but he's under assault under brakes into the hairpin. Looks like
Tander.
Garth Tander. So Tander picks up Longhurst. That moves him up to 7th.
That was a very impressive braking manoeuvre from Garth Tander. There is Greg Murphy. Your Shell Helix race score being updated. Bottom of your screen, it's 3 Holdens in the top 3. Then the Ford of Marcus Ambrose. They're spreading out the 2 Shell Fords. Here comes Tander. He's on a forward surge. And then we go back behind Longhurst, Ellery. And Craig Lowndes is up there. He's in 10th.
The last 2 laps, Murphy's pulled out 0.2 and 0.2 again on Scaife, so he's certainly on it.
It's going to be interesting to see what the Holden Racing team choose to do this time around with tyre strategy. Last time they kept Scaife out, but he wasn't producing the lap times that he needed to take advantage of that situation, so they brought him in on lap 11.
Simon Wells.
Caterpillar Fords drilled the gravel trap.
Maybe get a safety car for that.
Yeah, this could be a safety car situation.
Smoking up the inside just took me out big time. Yeah, I got past him on the run down there, and then next thing I know, I saw this car sliding in towards me and just punted me straight off.
They're saying someone had taken him out.
They're taking advantage of this. They reckon the safety car is going to be out, and the sharp cruiser ones who bring him in now. Oh, look at Scaife, got all the brakes locked up coming into pit lane, almost hit the back of Murphy's car.
And you can actually make a little gain there. This is a dangerous game from those that have stayed out, because if they do now pull a safety car, they're going to be penalised.
There's a big queue of cars, though, following Murphy, and you can just see in the background there, look at how many pits are going to open up in a second.
Mark was pretty shrewd there. He made valuable ground where you can do it where the radar doesn't see you.
Got right up behind Murphy's car.
Just down here in pit lane, 7.5 seconds gone for Murphy now. Full tyre change going on the front right, 7 seconds. And Murphy's leaving pit lane. See how he goes against Scaife.
Well, he's coming up on Mark Scaife's pit position. This could be good for Scaife. He may be able to get out in front. No, he won't.
No.
The Jackson.
Oh, it's going to be close.
So Murphy will come out ahead of Mark Scaife. Look at this.
Look at this.
Side by side.
Oh!
It's a 40-kilometre drag. And Murphy wins that one.
Well, the crowd have gone berserk.
Concentrate and look after the tyres. You've got the best set, so just keep doing a good job.
Got the best set of tyres on the car. Concentrate and do a good job's the message to Murph. They're on cold tyres now, so they've got to be a little bit careful for this first half a lap. You can't demand everything of the brakes and the tyres at the end of the back straight going into turn 5. Murphy glimpses in the mirror. That's the margin back to Mark Scaife. Strategically a pretty good call, I would have thought, because there is that possibility they may need to drag that cat car out of the sand. Bright's now in as well. He doesn't want to risk being out there any longer.
The reason they didn't bring Bright and Scaife in together, they're only allowed to make a tyre stop on 1 car per 2-car team. So Bright would have been forced to stay out whether he wanted to come in or not. Here's Ingle. Maybe he can try and get an advantage out of this as well. He's had a rotten day. Stephen Richards.
Oh, look at that. No bumper.
Rear bumper's been taken off. Probably a first lap incident.
Another devastating race for Stephen Richards. He came in there, had some rear damage to the rear bumper. The team were forced to rip it off. It took some time, probably about a 20-second stop on that one. So devastating blow again for FTR.
Jason Bright's rejoined just in front of his teammate Mark Scaife. Well, this is going to be interesting. Up the back straight.
It's knife edge, isn't it? Like, that just means that they were fractionally better in some area. You know, he either got into the lane a little quicker or they've managed to pluck the wheels on and off quicker. It's just how tight it is, so that's a great stop for Bright.
This is going to be an interesting battle too, because with the championship now safe.
Oh, look at that.
Wide open. I was going to say we might see a good battle between Bright and Scaife, but no such luck.
No such luck.
That was a very forceful move. Good on the brakes. Mark Scaife sliced right up the inside and retakes that position behind Greg Murphy. Here comes Ambrose on Jason Bright. He's all over the back of him. Ambrose pitted as well with those front-running guys, so this is on.
Remember that Mark had the benefit of having slightly warmer rubber for the attack down there, and he got away with it, but only just. It was really a knife-edge move.
Look at Ambrose starting to close in on the back of Bright here. Pertec Ford's been fast all weekend. Now he's got the Holden Racing Team car in front of him. The order at the moment. Paul Radicic is leading this one, but he's still yet to make his compulsory stop. These are the first of the cars that have made their compulsory stops. Greg Murphy running in 9th on the road. Scaife in 10th. Bright in 11th. And Ambrose in 12th. But expect them to move up the order very quickly soon.
Ambrose got to get his starting sorted out now. I mean, it's get a good position on the grid and then it's right all the way. Wow, when it's this competitive, you can't afford to do it.
The blue P's on your screen indicate those guys have already completed their compulsory pit stops for tyres.
You can see they're getting down to the best remaining tyres that they've got left. Lap times 58.6, 58.1, the best so far in this one.
There's plenty of time, be patient.
That's Paul Forgy, Marcus Ambrose, chief mechanic, on the headset, telling him just take it easy. Got a long way to go here.
Quickest lap is Jason Bright, 57.7.
There's damage on the front left guard on Marcus Ambrose's car too. I'd say that was from contact earlier. And this is on board with Mark Scaife at 40 kilometres an hour. Slowest drag race of the day. Murphy run out.
Drag race on the speed limiters.
Yeah.
Lap 8 of 36. Marcus Ambrose has got Jason Bright well within his sights. As they come down toward Holden hairpin once again.
It's interesting with the onboard shot with Ambrose before. He's back to first in the hairpin, even though these are used tyres or tyres that have had some work, so he's using plenty of them, and he's carrying fifth all through turn 7, where they're doing just on 200, or should I say, yeah, just on 200 kilometres an hour. And various people using different combinations with this 3.5 diff this weekend. Some are using second out of the hairpin down there and holding on to fourth round the final corner.
Effectively looking at the battle for third in this race between Jason Bright and Marcus Ambrose. They're still running 9th and 10th on the road, but there's still a few compulsory pit stops to be made up ahead of them. So once those compulsory stops are made, this will be the battle for third.
The first 6 cars on the road have not completed their compulsory pit stop. As we approach quarter race distance here at Pukekohe, the third and final one. Can Greg Murphy, New Zealand's big hope, take the hat trick? He's well on the way as he leads Mark Scaife in this particular battle, although they're not leading the race outright at the moment. Lap 8 of 36, there's still a long way to go, and these are the guys who lead on the road but yet to complete their pit stops. Radisich, Kelly, Forbes, Perkins, Jones and Faulkner. They still need to stop. All the rest have. That's why you see those blue boxes. It's still plenty to come from Pukekohe. We'll see you real soon. But now the Bright's tyres are up to temperature. I'd say that's going to be a little bit of a harder task.
Here comes Paul Radisich. He's about 42 seconds up the road from Greg Murphy before he came in. He's not going to be enough to avoid the overlap, I don't think. So
it's a long time.
He gets back out to the action. We'll see where he emerges.
Paul was just asking for the mirror to be pushed back out. Remember, he had that contact with Marcus, so they said they'll get to it, and they did.
Well, Greg Murphy's just crossed the pit exit lane, so Radisich should rejoin.
6th, I think.
6th, I think, by the time 7th, 6th, by the time the compulsory stops are completed.
Yeah, because he's behind Stephen Richards, who's 1 lap down, I think, for the damage repair.
So the order on the track is Todd Kelly, Larry Perkins, Brad Jones and John Faulkner yet to make their stops. Here's an incident down in the hairpin. David Bernard again.
Poor Wheel.
Leaning on the back.
Shame. Wheel had a good run in the first race.
The second race, he had a great race.
No, second race, rather.
I think Faulkner's got some issues as well. He was smoking going into turn 1. We go on board now with Paul Radisich.
Brad Jones. Bradley Jones in the wall.
And that's
what's that? It's oil.
It's oil because it's all over the back tyres, which is why the thing's sliding around for some reason.
Hero to 0 for the Jones Brothers team. Absolutely on top of their form at Mount Panorama only a few weeks ago.
Car steering records.
You can see there's oil pouring from the back of that car. Bradley will try and bring it into pit lane and minimise the amount of oil getting laid down on the racing line. That's a shame for the Stone Brothers operation. A 57.72 was set on lap 2 by Jason Bright, but expect the times to pump out now. 58.3 for race leader Todd Kelly.
Yeah, as for that Brad Jones incident, Kim Jones, the team manager, doesn't quite know what it is, just know that it is leaking oil, and you can hear the rest of the crews radioing to their drivers, beware, there is oil on the track.
Glenn Seaton's lap record from 1996 of a 57.3 second lap still stands. They're not quite up to that speed as yet as we join Greg Murphy in the Kmart Commodore. Through turn 6, heading up to Ford Mountain, turn 7 to complete yet another lap. As he gets another step closer to that hat trick.
He looks so good, didn't he? I mean, untroubled, really.
You've got to say, the Kmart team's got the wood on HRT this weekend. Really expected in a couple of these races, Scaife to be able to attack. Certainly give Murphy more pressure than he has, but Murphy's just had a slight edge throughout every race.
We His car's working well and he's driving well. Everything's in sync for him at the moment. He's just on top. Riding high of confidence. We go on board with Greg, has a glimpse in the mirrors. He'd be happy with the margin at the moment. Back to Mark.
He's currently 4th on the road, but Todd Kelly, his teammate Larry Perkins and John Faulkner still yet to pit. So Greg will eventually rise to the top as we are at 3rd race distance into the Holden hairpin.
This is the slowest corner on the track out of there at 65 k's. Accelerating up through left-handed turn 6. Very bumpy in 2 spots here, and the car's bottom right out, as you can see. 200 kilometres an hour through the final turn 7. Across the top of the Ford Hill and then back down the main straight past the pit area, which is on the right-hand side. An enormous crowd on the left-hand side of the drivers in this grandstand area. Then 200 kilometres an hour again through this very brave first turn, a long sweeping right-hander. Turns 2, 3 and 4 very tight. Big issue earlier in the weekend with drivers running over the cone markers down there and copping stop-go penalties for their trouble. And onto the back straight, coming on from about 95 kilometres an hour, and then a hard run up to just under 270 kilometres an hour at the end of the back straight. Marcus Ambrose.
Let's not sell this guy short. It's been a wonderful effort from Marcus Ambrose, the young Tasmanian. Never raced at Pukekohe before, so he's really held his end up high. And this is Todd Kelly pitting.
Was the race leader for a few laps there, but of course he still had to make his compulsory stop.
Limiter. Roll position light. Roll position light. Good stop, guys.
Have to remind the drivers to watch that speed limiter. It's absolutely crucial. Officials coming down hard if you break that 40 km/h speed limit.
Well, as Neil said earlier on, to get up to 40 k's an hour is nothing, is it? Really, so quickly.
It's interesting what you were saying before about how much the car's bottom and scrape Marcus Ambrose was showing us over the Pertec Ford between races 2 and 3. The amount of damage underneath it has rubbed a lot of the side skirts of the bodywork from under the car. Even the base of the onboard jack systems have been ground down to a very narrow, so they're really going to work out around here.
A huge shock absorber velocities. I mentioned in one of the earlier races figures that we've not seen since we tackled Canberra last year, where it was very bumpy around that final turn coming onto the front straight, but you know, huge movement in the cars.
Stephen Johnson in 17, currently running in 7th position, 2nd best Ford in this 3rd and final race. Of course, the top place Blue Oval machine, Marcus Ambrose.
He'll be much happier with that because he said they've done everything to the car and they can't seem to make any difference. So he's been struggling the whole weekend.
On board with Craig Lowndes, and it's one of the Valvoline Cummins Commodores up ahead. Look at this, Tony Longhurst there and Paul Romano in that queue as well.
And it's a battle for position, and Lowndes is right on the back of Tander there and almost, in fact, out of road as he came off the top of the hill.
Quicker than the bunch in front. Take your time, plenty of time.
All the leaders are lapping in the low to mid 58-second bracket. They're pretty close, though, on pace. It's a bit further back in the pack. Great shot here. Looking at Garth Tander's car.
Well, if Craig Lowndes can capitalise on this opportunity and get past Tander, he's got Longhurst there. He could elevate himself to as high as 9th. He's currently 11th.
Difficult for a driver in these circumstances, particularly if you feel as though you're quicker, because Garth will probably feel the same. You get tangled up with other people. It tends to make you frustrated, and it's easy to make an impulsive manoeuvre that can bring you undone, and particularly when it's a weird pack situation like these 4 cars here. Somebody gets a bit out of shape, makes a mistake, and it backs the pack up in a real hurry. And if you've committed yourself to a move that you can't undo, then you can be in real trouble.
I'll just look at these timing monitors. Sorry, guys. Actually, Romano's
25th.
Yeah, he's a lap down, so he's in the front of these guys who are battling for actual track position. Longhurst 9th, Tander 10th, Lowndes 11th.
And the person that this is advantaged is Russell Ingall, as he has stormed up on the back of Craig Lowndes. Ingall is currently in 12th position, so this 3-way battle, 4-way battle is about to grow.
That's the footbox of the Lowndes-mobile. Flat shift, just kick the clutch pedal just to be able to make the shift, but 100% throttle on the throttle trace. It's easy to you don't even have to bother kicking the clutch on the 5th to 6th change, and that's what we just saw a moment ago. Then hard on the picks for turn 5. He stays with the brake pedal all the way. You can see with the 2 shots we had up there, he's carrying the brake all the way to the apex in the middle of the corner, and he's got Ingall all over the back of him now.
And Russell Ingall is not a very happy person today. Cameron McConville is out. That's the end of the day at Pukekohe, and there's substantial damage to the front left.
Look at that front left suspension. Very badly mangled. He's run right along the fence line or something. Not a good day for the Lansvale team. Let's have a look at this on the replay.
Oh, he's given the outside fence a big wallop. Actually not far from where we're sitting, guys.
Yeah,
yep, should run.
Just down below our commentary box. So he's given it a real pasting on that Armco. And the Lansvale Smash Repairs team out of the race.
Anyway.
Now, I think we've gone full course yellow.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a tough year for the Lansvale Smash team. Just had a word to team boss Wally Story. He tells me Cam's not quite sure what happened. He believes a tyre may have blown, and that's what sent him spearing off the track.
Well, that front left was definitely, the front left tyre was off the rim.
Safety cars out.
Safety cars on the track to clear up these wrecks. So he will pick up the race leader, who is now Greg Murphy. Mark Scaife, Jason Bright, Marcus Ambrose falling into line behind the safety car.
I tell you what, this will reignite the race. The other thing, the tyres very often like a breather like this now. They just cool out, they lose some pressure, the temperature drops. Often when they go through a heat cycle, they come back and they can really perform when you get back on it again, and this will compress the field. This will be one heck of a sprint race to the flag.
Oof, look at this in real speed. 200 kilometres an hour through that sweeper. Deceptively fast pace. When you come unglued, you can see it's a big lump of car to try and stop. Fortunately, Cameron walking away uninjured, but a lot of damage to the Lansvale Smash Repairs car.
Under caution period at the moment at Pukekohe, and we have 50% of the race. There's still half the race left to run. This is going to be a dynamic finish. Murphy leads the way from Scaife and Bright. That'll be an intriguing battle. Ambrose in the Ford. Can he hang on? Johnson and Radishit still in contention as well, and Perkins and Kelly in the top 8.
Only Longhurst and Garth Tander. Longhurst still inside the top 10. Lowndes just biting at the tail of that group. Russell Engel, he's done well from the pit stops, up from 27th. Mark Larkham, Jason Bargwana, Stephen Ellery and David Bernard.
The question still begs, can Greg Murphy make the hat-trick? Well, it's just become a whole lot harder. Stay with us. You're looking at the newly crowned and the back-to-back Shell Series champion, Mark Scaife. What a stellar year it's been for the man from the central coast of New South Wales who now lives in Melbourne, Victoria. He's the class of the field, and he has one last challenge this weekend. That's to get past Greg Murphy and spoil the party for the Kmart racer.
You guys can probably see here the Cat Racing team. Obviously the disappointment with Simon Wills, they're packing up, but spare a thought for the crews tonight. They've got a very long night ahead of them, packing up all the equipment, making sure it's very clean to comply with customs before these cars and the equipment go back on the boats, back to Australia for Sandown.
That's right, the work's not done for 2001. 3 weeks' time is the big one at Sandown, the final round of the 2001 championship. There's Les Laidlaw looking at his very much damaged Cat Ford.
Just to expand on that, it takes just on a week for the cars to get back by boat to Brisbane, and then obviously they disperse to their various corners of the country. But because of agricultural rules here, they've got to make sure that, and particularly keep in mind that we're at a horse racing complex, they've got to remove all dirt and mud from every single bit of gear that is on all the cars and all the support equipment before they go back into the transporters, before they're shipped. And the cars are going to have to be, to some extent, not race prepped, but some of the key work needs to be done.
You can stay up to date with everything in this category. V8supercar.com.au is the official V8 Supercar website. So if you're on the net right now, take a look at dreamdrive.tv as well. Well worth a look, and quite interesting as well. Getting late in the year, but still worth a look. Look at that Lansvale Smash Repairs car. As I mentioned a few moments ago, the V8 Ultimate at Sandown. Looking forward to going back there. It's been a few years since the V8s have visited the Melbourne circuit, and it is the 13th and final round.
We should be in for a Brahma after this. It'll be about, what do you reckon, about 16 laps to run by the time we get rid of the safety car, or 15 laps, and everybody's closed up. So I think we'll have a really good race.
Well, that's never a nice sign.
That thing, Mark, look at it.
Oh, it's just terrible. Imagine what it's like for the mechanics who sweat and toil to turn out a beautiful, clean and well-prepared race car. When you see it come back to the workshop like that, very, very disheartening.
They've just dragged it off into a safe spot, and I believe the safety car lights are out, and that indicates to the field that they will go racing next time across the start-finish line area. So everybody gets on with the business of now trying to warm tyres and brakes.
It's been
Some pretty puzzled heads down here, guys, at Team Kiwi Racing. Jason Richards came in just moments ago. He's rejoined the field. There's a bit of damage to the front of that Commodore, and they believe that it may have loosened a plug lead or something like that, caused a misfire. They're hoping they fixed it, and they've sent him back out.
An absolute Kiwi walkover here this weekend. Greg Murphy taking pole position. 2 race wins, looking very strong for third. He wants to keep his perfect record intact as they get up to racing speed, and they're back to racing. He gets the jump on the Holden Racing Team duo. Murphy showing plenty of speed here at Pukekohe as they get back to racing.
He was very quick as soon as he knew we were back to green, so Murphy has that advantage. Look at Jason Bright. He is quite serious about regaining that second position from Mark Scaife, and Ambrose is not out of this one either.
Stephen Johnson's going well, hasn't he? Be happy with that.
They've clawed their way back a bit this weekend from the way in which the cars looked when they first practiced on Friday, and they were jumping beans, and they're actually looking pretty reasonable now. That was a great start by Murphy. He actually put real genuine ground on everybody by the time they got to the first corner, and that's not often done in this field.
I was talking to Paul Radicic earlier today about the homework and the amount of work they had to do on the Shell Fords overnight. They just completely redesigned the front end. He said they just went right through the car, and it's made a big difference to the speed of the car throughout the day. You can see the results there. First of the Shell Fords running up in 5th, and Radicic behind him. Great shot at the back of the Kmart car. See how hard they're pushing as they come down this main straight. They sweep into this sweeper, 200 kilometres an hour.
58.1 the last time through for Murphy, 58.4 for Scaife. Yeah, he does work hard, doesn't he?
This is out the back of Mark Scaife's car, looking at his teammate Jason Bright, copying plenty of heat from the Pertec Falcon. This safety car period has bunched the field up and added new life to the race. See if Ambrose can hang on to the Holden Racing Team duo.
Nice incentive there for Greg Murphy. If he can maintain this lead, if he wins, it'll be the first time he's taken the clean sweep in his Shell Series career. Look at Bright, inside, outside. He's having a look at his teammate. And Marcus Ambrose still hanging in there as well in the Pertec Ford.
Not only will this keep his Pukekohe record intact, Lee, but the last time he won a Shell Championship Series round was the FAI 1000 at Bathurst back in 1999 when he scorched a victory with Stephen Richards. So it's been a long time out of the winner's circle for Murph, which is quite deceptive because he's been very fast and competitive all year with the new Kmart operation.
Well, Perkins has done a good job, hasn't he, when you think about it, up in the 7th?
Very good job.
So the order: Murphy, Scaife, Bright, Ambrose, Stephen Johnson and Paul Radicic. Larry Perkins did well from that pit stop. Todd Kelly, Tony Longhurst, Garth Tander. That's the top 10 Lowndes still nipping at their heels in 11th spot.
Pretty interesting year for Murphy when you think about it. At the end of last year, he wasn't quite sure what he was going to be doing at the beginning of this year.
Say that again, that's an
So it's all turned out quite nicely for him.
All good things come to those who wait, they say. It certainly fell in Murph's lap. Unbelievable dream drive.
Can you ever look at Murphy's face from last year?
Yeah.
Terrible.
And he had a shocking summer. He didn't know where he was going.
Look at this bunch further back, just behind these guys, behind the HRT cars and Ambrose. There's a very intriguing battle. Johnson, Radicic, Perkins and Kelly, they're all bunched up and scrapping it for the minor placings. We're running out of laps. There's just 14, 13 laps to go now.
Not quite sure who that's going to be shown to. We'll determine that as soon as we can. Look at Todd Kelly just trying to snip up the inside of Larry Perkins. Move up another spot. So the black flag being shown to one of those cars in that pack. Information from race control as soon as we know who that's for and what it's for. Meanwhile, the race continues. Murphy just out to almost a second last time across the start-finish line over Scaife and Bright.
Four-car battle, the 2 Shell Helix Fords and 2 Holdens, Perkins and Kelly. And Larry, very defensive inside line up into the Holden hairpin, almost contact there with the Rat.
Yeah, he's really breathing on that Shell Ford. They come out of the Holden hairpin, building up speed. Almost 200 kilometres an hour, you're on board. With Radicic pulling plenty of pressure from the Castrol Commodore. Fantastic corner this. The cars work so hard to get through that turn. Looks like they really don't want to turn in. The drivers have to muscle them across the camber of the road.
Larry looks at his straight. The inside of Radicic couldn't quite get there through the turn 1 sweeper into the boost S's. And let's not forget, it's so easy to overlook Todd Kelly and how very quickly he's matured into a top-level V8 Supercar driver. Greg?
Down in pit lane, guys, David Bernard is trundling his way down for a stop-go penalty. Now, that is for curb hopping, but I can tell you that the team from K&J Thermal, Paul Wheel's crew, have been to see the officials over that incident earlier on. They're none too happy with David Bernard. The official said over that one, they'll look at it.
Yep, has been on the receiving end of a few of those this year as he cuts his teeth in V8 Supercar competition.
Oh, yeah, it was a big movement in the back there somewhere.
Yeah, up at turn 5 at the hairpin. Someone got turned all of a sudden.
Oh,
it was
Tander.
Wonder if Longhurst was involved in that. There goes Angus
look
Fogg
at this.
again. Well, it's not the first time we've seen Angus spin this weekend.
No, he spent plenty of time on the grass.
And he's able to continue, which is good stuff. Now, making light of that other incident, Tander has fallen all the way to 17th position. Longhurst was able to continue. Let's take a look at it. Paul Romano was in the middle of that. And a few of the guys getting through. Longhurst and Lowndes were able to squeeze through.
Have a look at this. You can see the steam coming out of Paul Wheel's K&J Thermal Falcon. The car being put away. Keys Wheel, you are not happy. Tell us why.
Oh, well, it's one of those things, I suppose, in motor racing, but I guess a lot of these so-called level 1 teams can push and shove and punt back markers off the road, and unfortunately when we're punted off the road earlier that we got a front duct full of grass and gravel, so that's what made it overheat, and it's turned our weekend into absolute, as you know what I'm going to say.
Hard luck, Keith.
Thanks.
10 laps remaining for race leader Greg Murphy. Things not looking so good for K&J Thermal. Let's have a look at this incident a bit earlier on with Angus Fogg.
And that was right after Garth Tander had rejoined the circuit. So that was a costly altercation up there at the Holden hairpin. Meanwhile, let's get back to it. Our race leader inside 10 laps now for Greg Murphy, and he has a healthy 1 second margin over Mark Scaife. It's certainly looking good for Murph.
Scaife's pushing him very, very hard. It was only matter of 600ths of a second or something last time around, so there's very, very little between these two cars. But Murphy just had enough squirt, particularly got the jump at the restart, and that's given him a tactical advantage here. Just enough breathing space.
Coming on around to complete yet another lap. We'll check that margin as they come across the start-finish line. It was almost an even second, and that gap remains, well, pretty much the same, 9/10 of a second. Bryant is hanging in there in third from Ambrose and Steve Johnson, the top 5, and Larry Perkins has allowed Todd Kelly to squeeze through. Tony Longhurst doing a good job, and he's enjoying his time in New Zealand. So are we. Stay with us. Greg Murphy is powering on towards yet another victory, and there has not been a single session or a single race where he hasn't been the main man. Look at this, Todd Kelly. He is really starting to get forceful on Paul Radisich. Came right up on the back of the Shell Helix Ford. There's no pressure on Steve Johnson. It's all on his teammate. Kelly is having a stunning drive.
Well, he was leading this race for a while there. One of the last to come in and make his compulsory tyre change. Now he's trying to storm his way back through the field. He's in 7th spot. Radisich is in 6th and defending hard as they come down the straight. Look at this great shot from the back of the Shell Ford. He switches across to the left-hand side, tries to run down the outside of the Shell car into the Holden.
Yeah,
does it too.
It's one of the impressive things about Todd Kelly. Look at the difference in experience between he and someone like Paul Radisich, and he's not daunted by the company that he's keeping.
He must have some pace in a straight line, or
yeah.
came off turn 4 very quickly with good drive, or a combination of both those things.
It's quite interesting to hear the arguments between the Ford and Chevrolet engine builders saying that the Ford is supposed to have this theoretical advantage. Very rarely you'll see the car on its hard-cut rev limiter. We've seen that a number of times with the Kmart cars. They are really quick in a straight line.
Just to let you know, Todd Kelly was one of the people who elected to gamble in this one because he started so far down the order. He waited until lap 18 to pit, so a late strategy paying big dividends for Todd Kelly.
He started 18th and he's now nicely positioned in 6th. It's been a very, very impressive drive, and Stephen Johnson's the next one on his list.
So part of the answer to the question we posed a moment ago was it's got younger tyres on it, so it's probably got good drive off turn 4 as well as having pretty good poke.
Well, we saw a difference between tyres that were 8 laps difference in terms of their life, with Scaife and Murphy in the battle in race 2. Didn't quite pay off for Scaife. It was a nice try. He just burned the tyres up a little bit too much trying to close the gap to Murph, and then he hit a bit of a brick wall.
Oh, the officials have given Paul Radisich a stop-go for curb hopping.
In next lap, please. In next lap.
And they're asking him to come in the next lap. That helps Larry Perkins. He moves up to 7th, Longhurst up to 8th, and Craig Lowndes will move inside the top 10 in 9th. And Mark Larkham's having a good run in this third and final race. Larkham started 16th. He'll pop up to 10th.
Lap times remaining fairly consistent for the leaders. Murphy just did a 58.2, Scaife a 58.1. So even though they're on the best of the tyres they've got left from their 12 tyre selection.
Got to come in and do the stop go.
Lap times are consistent. The Shell team telling him you must come in. He probably can't believe that he's been given a penalty, but he has to respond to the team's orders.
It's amazing the way things are turned around for Stephen Johnson, isn't it, when you think about it?
Craig Lowndes, he's up in 10th spot. He's cracked the top 10.
He's torturing Tony at the moment.
Back of that.
Got the right
Rear light
rear.
hanging out.
The tail light assembly sort of poised to depart the car shortly.
Tony Longhurst did such a brilliant job for the Holden Racing team at Mount Panorama. 5 laps to go for race leader Greg Murphy.
5 laps, Craig, 5 laps.
And Longhurst is really on a roll with confidence. Thoroughly enjoyed his time with the Holden Racing team and now flying the flag very successfully for Rod Nash Racing.
Flying the tail light as well.
Here's Radicic.
Coming in for his stop-go penalty. The car on the 40km/h rev limit. It makes an awful sound as they come down pit lane.
I reckon he'd be on the rev limit.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say the same thing.
So while it's been so successful for one Kiwi in the form of Greg Murphy, look at this, Lowndes all over Tony Longhurst. It hasn't been that great a weekend for Paul Radicic. Further back, there's Larkham, Ingle and Stephen Ellery. That's 10th, 11th and 12th.
Oh, that was lucky.
You just saw Paul stop right there, but David Bernard made an interesting point when he came in. He said, how can I be touching these cones if there's no cones left to touch? They've already been destroyed by everybody else going over them. So if they're going to race as hard as they are now, the officials' eagle eyes are still on that controversial turn 2.
Paul Romano having a spin and getting back going again. 4 laps left, and this battle is not stopping for anyone. Lowndes v Longhurst.
4 laps to go, Craig. It's too late in the race for him to do anything about it, so you just got to keep the pressure on him and try and get him into making a mistake.
Oh, that's Oscar telling Craig what to do. One of the areas where Craig appears a bit weak is coming onto the back straight. Tony's getting a gap on him as they come down there. Oh, and Tony's actually cutting him up a little high on the turn-in area. It's on between these two at the moment, pushing very hard. But Longhurst is definitely making good ground where it counts in a couple of places, and they're just preventing himself from being attacked further.
We saw that interview earlier in the day with Tony, and it really is an impressive performance. It's a small team. It's a rather underfunded team. They have picked up a sponsor for this round, but a really, really tremendous performance from them. Back to the race leader, Greg Murphy, and the margin is 1.2 seconds. That's what it looks like. Murphy to Scaife.
Yeah, you can see how close and competitive this battle is between these two great drivers and teams. But Murphy just has this slight advantage. It's probably only a few 100ths of a second per lap, but it's enough just to keep building it.
There's a skirmish up there.
Somewhere.
Here we go. Let's have a replay. This may tell the story. Romano. Oh, this is probably the Romano.
This was the earlier incident. Ooh, one of the Valvoline cars. That's Scarf Tander.
So Tander tagged the back of Romano.
I wonder if that's a payback.
Didn't the reverse happen earlier?
Yes, yeah. I think that might have been a tit for tat there. Winding down, there's 2 laps to run at Pukekohe before Greg Murphy takes a clean sweep. His first clean sweep of a Shell Series round, and he will repeat 1996 at Pukekohe, where he won absolutely everything.
Well, he couldn't have a much cleaner sweep. He's done everything, and he's been fastest in every practice, and then absolutely whitewashed.
It's a brilliant job. He's really just taken the whole event, taken charge of it. He's looked fantastic throughout the whole weekend. His car's working beautifully. He's driving it well. His team are in sync. Fans are loving every second of it.
Oh, aren't they, Jess? They're going to erupt when he comes across the start-finish line to wrap it up. It'll be 3 from 3, a perfect score, unbeaten score at Pukekohe and V8 Supercars. Quite incredible.
It's great for the sport, isn't it? Because tomorrow morning there'll be a picture of him on the front page of the national newspaper. Yeah, at last.
Lowndes has moved up ahead of Tony Longhurst. Longhurst tries to respond, but he won't get through there. Over and under, he may have got Craig Lowndes there. This is the final lap. Greg Murphy is less than 3 kilometres away from the hat-trick, and what will complete...
Scaife's going...
He's slowing for some reason. Fog just went past him, and you'd have to say something odd about that.
Mark Scaife running into problems in second position. We go on board with the champion.
Let's have a listen.
Has this allowed his teammate to get by? Bright will come into the picture in a real hurry, I would say.
As he youngers away, you wonder what's going on here.
They miss a gear or something.
No, it's just like ever so slow past that box.
Yeah, and the Team Kiwi car went past him.
Let's get back to it though. Greg Murphy, what a stunning weekend. He comes out of the Holden hairpin for the final time, and he has dominated the entire weekend, qualifying the top 10 shootout, race 1, race 2, and now race 3. Listen to the crowd. Greg Murphy has dominated. He owns Pukekohe, not only in 96 but 2001. Well done, Greg Murphy. He's given the Kiwi crowd exactly what they
I know what it was. Yeah, I know exactly what he was going to
They
say.
wanted to get right in front of Scape, so he got more championship points.
Exactly that.
Because they want a 1-2 for the team at Sandown, and that was a tactical move if you ever seen one.
Yeah.
Tremendous stuff for this man, Greg Murphy. The Pukekohe winner, and has done it in fine style.
Well done, boys. Great job. Great job. Awesome.
He's only a little bit excited, Murph. Fantastic thing about Greg Murphy, he shows his enthusiasm for winning. Quite often you see a driver win a race and it looks like the helicopter's just been repossessed. But Murphy really shows his enthusiasm. And look at the dominance of this TWR Australia operation. Kmart Racing and Holden Racing Team came together, working in separate factories, but very much under the same umbrella. And they are the dominant force at Pukekohe Raceway. Incredible stuff from this Holden operation. Marcus Ambrose, the best of the Fords, in 4th place, and Murphy will be absolutely delighted with that.
The 40,000 fans here at Pukekohe will go home delighted and very satisfied.
Yeah, if it hadn't been for Ambrose, they'd have had a total clean sweep, wouldn't they? Because Todd Kelly was 5th.
Listen to the cheers of the crowd here, 40,000 strong. It's been a most extraordinary roll-up by the Kiwis. The Holden flags are waving. They love their V8 Supercar racing. And it's a marvellous scene to see the crowd. The stands there absolutely jam-packed. And they've been given a smorgasbord today.
Well, that will certainly make the championship points, which we will take a look at later. Very interesting. Here's the replay of the finish. This is as Greg Murphy comes across the line. And that's what a very satisfied Kiwi crowd looks like. And Murphy says, yes, I've done it again. He repeats history, 1996 and 2001. He's received such strong and loyal support from New Zealand throughout his V8 Supercar, his whole racing career, and now he gives the fans back something. The new champion comes over to congratulate him. Scaife and Murphy, what a great day's racing it's been from those two men.
I think that was a really successful effort over the weekend for the race organisers here. It was really good.
They couldn't have asked for anything better. We'll hear from Greg Murphy in just a moment. And what relief, what satisfaction.
Greg Murphy, this has to be the best feeling, doesn't it?
Oh, mate, I'm completely lost for words. Completely lost for words. I just, I don't know what to say. This is...
I think you can say to the people behind you, because what about the support here in New Zealand?
Look at them. It's just, I mean, this is what it was like in 96, but twice as big. I mean, this just blows me away. This is equal to Bathurst, equal to winning Bathurst today. It's just fantastic.
We know you wanted the championship this year, but this has got to be close to it. But it was a tough day. We talk about you hitting the pit lane speed limit button at one time, close racing, and Scaife always there behind you.
Always there. Always there. You know, he puts on a fight. He doesn't like to be beaten, and especially probably here, he wanted to beat me. So, you know, it's been a great year, and this caps it off. I mean, Sandown really is just going to be, let's go for it and have some fun. But this has made my year. This has made my decade, I think.
A new bub as well. It's got to be a pretty emotional time for you, Greg.
Very emotional. These people are just phenomenal. I mean, they turned out in, I don't know how many, 40 or 50,000 today, and they've been starved this for a long time. I knew it was going to be big. I knew it would be this big, and I just didn't think I'd have such a dream run and have a fairy tale ending. It's just awesome.
Well, Murph, they're giving you heaps this weekend. How about you give something back?
Well, I just did. Give it again.
Turn around, Charles, the crowd.
Go!
A very happy Greg Murphy.
Well, the cheers go up for Greg Murphy, but the cheers also for Mark Scaife. A wonderful weekend for you, wrapping up your title once again, back-to-back effort. The first time you've done it in championship terms, and gee, you pushed him all the way.
Well, I did push him. I mean, he's driven very, very well this weekend, there's no doubt. I mean, it's probably the best drive I've ever seen him put on. He didn't put a foot wrong in the last race, and it was a really good battle. And I couldn't quite get a sniff. I mean, he just had a little bit too much straight line speed for me. I couldn't quite get there, Rusty, and I would have liked to have given a bit better cheek in the end, but I mean, that's as good as we could do, and it's a great result for our team. I mean, back-to-back, but 4 in a row, pretty outstanding effort.
Awesome effort here for you, but a great crowd reception here as well. It's been quite incredible for us to come to Pukekohe, hasn't it?
Look, no doubt. I mean, the atmosphere, we have, the Clipsal race, and we have certainly lots of other races around Australia, like Bathurst, that have got fantastic, patronage, but here they've come out in their droves, and, Greg Murphy's performed. I mean, they're out of control. The Murphy fan club.
Tell us about race 2 for you. You dabbled with a different strategy today. Was that just something you were experimenting with?
Well, look, I can afford to take the risk. When the championship was over, I mean, all year I've probably been thinking about doing that, but we haven't been able to do it, Greg, So in the end, we've been able to have a go at that. It does work, there's no doubt about it, but I suppose overall, you've just got to go with the leaders. I mean, that's the whole gig.
It's been a remarkable year for you, mate. I know the championship in terms of the final round is not over. It's safely in the bag for you. You've got Bathurst as well. It's been a top year. Well done.
It's been the best year of my career. Thanks, mate. Good on you.
They've got a picture of Sam Newman there. That does, it does look like him.
Well, the first forward home, and the man who's finished 3rd overall today, Marcus Ambrose. Great drive once again, mate, but not the best start this time.
No, we're not doing the best starts, I tell you, but we've got to work on this, and it's just one of those things. These are hard cars to start, and I'm paying the price. But I knew that I just had to stay behind Bridie for 3rd place on the day, and that's what we did. We're definitely the fastest forward here this weekend, but we just couldn't match those HRT Holdens, and I was driving as hard as I possibly could out there, and I made a couple of small mistakes, just trying to push really hard. But 3rd's great today. First time here, so we can't be too disappointed.
I'll tell you what, that slick pit stop did crank you back up the order, because this team is electric. They do a lot of practice back at the workshop, and you're into the 9s in pit stops now. You can't get any faster, surely.
That's a bit of a turnaround, because at the start of the year we had those steam-powered rattle guns, remember? We worked really hard. The boys practice probably 2 or 3 times a week. We've got a special rig set up at the workshop with lead wheels, so they get stronger and get used to putting on heavy wheels compared to our lighter ones. And it's paying dividends. We had 2 of the fastest pit stops here this weekend, and we made a race of it because of the good pit stops.
Did that brake pedal come back?
Yeah, no problem. It was just matching up to the pad to the disc, so no drama. It's just me getting a bit nervous.
When will this first win come for you, Marcus Ambrose?
It's coming. It's not too far away. Hopefully before the end of the year.
We'll see you at Sandown.
Okay, bye.
It might just be at Sandown. It's been a resounding success. Round 12 of the series here at Pukekohe. The final results. Greg Murphy, of course, that hat-trick winner from Jason Bright. Valuable championship points there from Scaife. Ambrose, Todd Kelly, what a fierce drive. Steve Johnson, Larry Perkins and Craig Lowndes fought very hard to work his way up to 8th position. Longhurst, the battle-scarred car there. Larkham did well to break into the top 10, and Russell Ingall will not be satisfied with 11th position. We go further back. David Bernard, he had a tough weekend. So too did Steve Richards in the FTR Ford, and Jason Richards will not be satisfied, finishing 22nd. And there we have the non-finishers. Paul Wheel, McConville with that heavily damaged car, Tratt Wills and Brad Jones as well. What a day. It's been a great day, but it's not over yet. We'll be back right after this break.
If you're a Kiwi, it does not come any better than this. Greg Murphy and the Kmart Commodore dominating the second last round of the 2001 series. Look at that, emotion overload. Thoroughly delighted with his performance, and so he should be. The round results, Murphy, Scaife and Ambrose, the podium place getters, we know that. The other positions, interesting though. Bright, Longhurst, the top 5. Steve Johnson, Garth Tander, Perkins, Ellery and Craig Lowndes recovering after a tough start to the weekend. But let's go to the podium. Mark Osler's with the top 3.
Well, what a fantastic introduction of V8 Supercar racing to New Zealand. More than 86,000 Kiwis have turned up to watch this race. Take a bow, New Zealand. You've done us proud and made the V8 first foray overseas into a huge success. Well done. It's been a wonderful day. Before we get to our champions and our winners, I'd like to call on Adrian Hunter, the sponsorship and events manager for Boost Mobile, the sponsor of this wonderful event, to say a few words.
Excellent. How good is the local boy? Come on, 3 out of 3. That's not too bad. Give him a hand. Excellent. Just briefly, just a couple of quick ones. There's no way that we thought it was going to be such a huge event over the 3 days. It's turned out to be spectacular for the drivers and for all the spectators, I'm sure. Just on behalf of Boost Mobile, just like to thank all the spectators for coming out throughout the country, and also to the New Zealand public for sponsoring and helping out, supporting the Boost Mobile brand and coming along to the event. So bring on next year.
Thank you very much, Adrian Hunter. And indeed, bring on next year. Wonderful reception from the New Zealand crowd. Right now, I'd like to call on Tony Blizzard, the General Manager of Boost Mobile in New Zealand, to make the presentations to the man who finished third overall today, flying the flag for Ford, but not quite fast enough to knock off those two Commodores. How about a big welcome for Marcus Ambrose? Wow. There's no doubt about it. You come out of the box, you don't need much practice, but you were certainly the fastest Ford out there, but not quite fast enough to match these blokes.
Yeah, we were hooking the car up pretty well, but we just couldn't match the HRT cars this weekend. You know, I tried my best. I split them in race 1 and dropped one in race 2 and another one in race 3. So, yeah, really, it's the way it goes, but I'm pleased for the team. We've worked really hard here this weekend. Rookie year, first time here, so, you know, you can't be disappointed. It's been a great day for us, and we're going to celebrate tonight.
Fantastic. Put your hands together, folks. Marcus Ambrose, a real star for the Blue Oval. He should be back in action 2002. Well, the man who did a great job here, he claimed his 4th Shell Series Championship, and he put on an absolutely magnificent performance for Holden Racing Team. How about a big round for the new Shell Series champion, Mark Scaife? Wow, what a fantastic weekend, Scopey. I mean, I know you didn't win it overall, but you still managed to get on the podium. And most importantly, you've claimed that 4th Shell Series title. Is there a 5th in the bag next year, you reckon?
Oh, well, we'll certainly be trying, Mark. I mean, I've got to say, first up today, that, you know, Greg Murphy has done a fantastic job. He's driven faultlessly all weekend, and we've tortured our bums off to try to beat him, I can tell you. So he's done a great job. And to our sponsors and our team, you know, to Holden and our race team for 4 championships in a row, it's a pretty incredible effort, especially when the competition is so strong. So, you know, congratulations, guys. All this work is, you know, it's all your effort.
Big round of applause, please, for Mark Scaife, the new Shell Series champion. Outstanding drive. I guess you want to save your biggest applause, though, for the local hero. We call him the King of Pukekohe, and his record in V8 Supercars remains unmatched, Greg Murphy. What a fantastic moment for Murph, gee. That's pretty hard to keep your record intact. That was 5 years ago you had the perfect score, but to come back here 5 years later with the level of competition in V8 Supercar and do such a demolition job, that's we've got to hand it to.
Well, thanks, mate. I'm in shock myself, and I didn't expect to have it go quite that way. I thought it was going to be maybe a little bit tougher and maybe not win all 3 races like that, but it's just fantastic. But the Kmart car today was just unbeatable. The guys at TWR here and back in Australia have just done a fantastic job, and mate, I can't thank them enough. But it's all to these guys. I think they lifted that car up and carried it around half a second a lap faster. So thank you, guys. Well done. Cheers.
Well done, New Zealand. Cheer the new King of Pukekohe, Greg Murphy, really on fire on home soil.
The point scenario is very, very interesting as we go into the 13th and final round. Of course, we know the situation with Mark Scaife, but Russell Ingall is coming under fire from Jason Bright, and Greg Murphy is zeroing in on Bright as well. Steve Johnson, well, he could be under threat from Todd Kelly in the V8 Ultimate at Sandown. Radicic, Tander, Steve Ellery, and the other point to take note of there is Marcus Ambrose has now come into the top 10. Well, that's it. That's the end of round 12, and it really has been a stunning round. Barry Shen, you're very qualified to talk about international motorsport. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was brilliant. I think as a first-up effort, I think they made a really good job of it. They made a fantastic job of the getting the traffic in. They've looked after everybody well. They've done a pretty good job of the pit area and that. And all they can do from here is improve. You know, they need a bridge across the circuit, and we'll have to wait until next year. But I think as a first effort, it was great. And you couldn't have asked for a better result. For Murph to absolutely whitewash everybody was brilliant. And it's really good for the sport, because tomorrow all the national newspapers are going to have Murph on the front. Oh, sorry, on the front of it. So I think it's really brilliant.
Neil Cropton, you were here in 1996. Everyone's comparing it with 1996, where 12 cars came over to do the demo run. How does it compare? How did it compare?
Well, I still can't understand the language, but apart from that, it's really been fantastic. It was brilliant when we were here in 1996, and we knew at that time that it was a case of really having to bring the whole show and the whole circus back here at some point to really get the full explosion. I think Murph summed it up beautifully before when he said, you know, it's just twice as good as it was in 96. There's so many fans here today. It was the atmosphere that really made it, and I guess it was the perfect result for the locals, and I think you've really got to dip your hat to TWR and to Greg and to his crew of guys. I think fastest in every session and to win every race, be on pole, that's very, very, very special achievement.
I know you've been saying it reminds you, certainly this front stretch here reminds you of Brands Hatch and other British circuits. What did you think of the place?
Well, I thought it was really good. You know, it's the spitting image. You were sitting in the commentary box looking down the circuit. It's the spitting image of Brands Hatch. But I think what today showed is the fact that the event can go international with support like this. And let's hope in the next sort of couple of years, you know, I was talking to Tony Cochrane today, the boss of Avesco, and he was saying that, you know, there's some good stuff in the pipeline. And to enter, you know, everybody was absolutely over the moon with it today. It produced brilliant competition, especially in the wet race. I thought it was one of the best races I've ever seen. So, you know, if we can get some good international venues, I think we're on an absolute winner.
Neil, let's follow on from that and let's stay on that international flavour of things. There's been some knockers and some critics to say that V8s can't go offshore. Well, today proves that they can.
I think they can, and it's especially important in a market like this where these products are sold. You can buy a Holden Commodore here, you can buy a Ford Falcon right here in New Zealand, and you know the Kiwis have been getting the Network 10 coverage for a long time now. I think 7 Kiwis in this race this weekend, and many of them been doing very well for a very long time. So there's an enormous amount of pent-up energy here, and you'll probably find that we can export what's good about this to other places in time. We've got to get the timing right, and there are probably some venues at home we need to work on as well. It's not just a case of focusing internationally, but certainly that's something we can look to. I mean, I've said many times, I know when I went to the States in 97, we're driving the Super Tour, I thought to myself, imagine pulling top gear in a V8 supercar at Long Beach. I mean, I know Americans, cast iron V8s, heavy metal, they love that stuff, and I'm sure there's other markets, and it's occurred to more than one person that this sort of product would work just as well in Europe as it does here. So there's definitely potential for it. We just have to manage it very carefully and not lose sight of our local constituency at the same time.
We've always sat back in Australia and said, oh, there is great support in other countries for V8 supercars, but 86,000, that proves it.
Well, quite incredible when you think about it. And you know, I've seen touring car racing. I raced in touring car in 1985 in England. And, you know, you see the British Touring Car Championship on television. Well, don't forget, that's had a good doctoring in the old sort of editing booth and everything. But look at NASCAR in America. This is what the V8 supercars resembles over here. It's so popular. It's more popular than car, etc., etc. And I just think it's got a great future, and I think it really should stay with just 2 makes and nobody else in there, obviously.
First time a championship race has been run after the big one, after Bathurst. What are your thoughts?
Mixed feelings on that. I'm not really sure. I think when the season goes on beyond Bathurst, for me, we start to get into some other zones, not least of which is it gets warmer and people have other things on their mind, you know. Australians and Kiwis love to get out in the water and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd like to see the calendar actually run over a shorter period of time, probably for the number one reason that it really murders the guys on the ground. If you saw the workload that everybody's gone through in the lead up to Bathurst, coming out the other side of Bathurst, prepping cars to go to the Gold Coast, coming out of the Gold Coast, coming here, everybody in the pit lane now is flat out trying to get these things back to Melbourne for Sandown. It's a really tough job for the people.
Great to work with you again. Look forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time. And speaking of a few weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, we will be at Sandown for the V8 Ultimate. That is round 13 of this year's Shell Championship Series. There's plenty more other great sport coming up on Network 10, and that is the PGA Golf Championship coming to you from Royal Queensland. You can see great players such as Norman, Allenby and Appleby making the trip back from overseas. Well, that's it from Pukekohe here in New Zealand. It has been a marvellous round. We've really enjoyed it. Hope you have. See you at Sandown.